Well, since October 7th, there's been no shortage of anti-Semitic incidents across the diaspora, and the Trump administration is continuing the crackdown on campus radicalism with visa revocations and deportations. Throughout this war, one Israeli voice has been bravely standing against this extremism at every sports event he has. Israeli Olympic bobsledder AJ Edelman has been using his travels to speak with anti-Israel activists all over the U.S. Today, he joins us to share some of what he's encountered. AJ, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on. To start, could you just tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since October 7th and how you're representing the state of Israel?
Sure. After October 7th, it became very clear that my team would be called to Gaza, but I, as an immigrant who had not previously had the honor of serving, I would not. So I wondered how best I could represent the state at a time when all the other people were proudly representing the state. And I figured that it could be one of these scenarios in which I can educate people through debate. And so within a week after the attack, I went out to Washington Square Park. I held an 8-hour public debate with people who came by the table, including Mahmoud Khalil, who no one knew who he was, and have since replicated that across North America at 15 different sites and many different smaller venues as well.
Now, on October 15th, I believe it was, of course, before Israel had responded to any of the attacks on October 7th, you were confronted by Mahmoud Khalil, as you mentioned, the Columbia student now set to be deported for his Hamas support on campus. What was that experience like?
It was fascinating. His wife actually was also there, his now wife. I did not know at the time who they were, but it certainly stuck out. So every single person who came to the table, I offered them my hand. The purpose of the entire exchange originally was called Handshakes Not Hate. And this was organized in response to what was supposed to be what they called the Day of Jihad. So they wanted to throw a day of jihad before Israel actually responded to anything. And so everyone who came up to the table offered my hand. He definitely did not want to shake it. He refused to shake it. But some of the things he said was absolutely vile. On the sign that was stapled to the table, it had mentioned that Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization that brutalized its own civilians. And on that point, he really went to bat for them. This was very early on, and so people largely anti-Zionists were almost exclusively staying away from the Hamas issue, trying to deflect from the atrocities of 10/7 and focus on Israel. He was entirely in the camp of supporting Hamas, of defending Hamas. It was very memorable from that aspect.
Now, this morning, we saw that U.S. President Trump signed an executive order demanding all universities disclose foreign funding. This has been a large part because of Qatar's interference on those campuses like Columbia. Do you think that this will help cut back on the extremism that you've seen as you've toured around and seen some of these campuses interacting with some of these students?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I was actually there on the day that I was with your husband when he was attacked at the Columbia protest. So I was very up close and personal to how things went. At that same protest, I was also assaulted. What I've seen as I traveled across to many different universities, I've been to MIT, Columbia, NYU, Yale, many of the universities, the higher education institutes that we associate with the next bright leaders, is that they're supposed to be molding the young minds. And I don't think it's entirely an issue of foreign influence, of foreign funding. Of course, it really heavily plays into it. But what really motivates the entire hatred complex is the faculty. And so at all these universities where there have been pushes to discipline people who have clearly crossed a line, not just crossed a line, they've jumped over a Grand Canyon of a line, the faculty have been the ones who have stopped the disciplinary process. So they're the ones who are defending the students who are harassing Jews. It's the faculty's issue. And the reason this is such an issue with faculty is universities and higher education, they're magnets for grievance individuals, people who just have chips on their shoulders, who didn't get ahead, and Jews are always the subject of people's grievances. And so when you have a faculty that is so united in its hatred of Jews and the socioeconomic status that Jews hold, anything the Jews have done to get ahead, again, as well, the refutation of critical race theory and the refutation of victimhood, right? Jews have come from nothing, have come from the most victimized individuals in the last 80, 90 years to be superstars socioeconomically. to have advanced far beyond what anyone would have expected from them, it stands as a stark refutation of everything that these faculty and professors hold dear. And so I'm not really sure that cutting the foreign funding is going to do anything, is going to make a real change. What really needs to change is the screening of faculty, and that's going to take decades perhaps to root out, because it's been there for generations.
Absolutely. Now, finally, can you tell us a little bit about the Israel bobsled team and how you and your team are representing the state of Israel? I mean, sports isn't political, but you've still come under attack just for being Israeli, right?
Oh, I've been under attack for being Israeli for many years. At the 2018 Olympics, a race official disqualified a piece of my equipment and said that he was doing so because you people make all the rules, but not today. It was exceedingly anti-Semitic, and one of many incidents that I've faced on my time. I got some interesting words when I wore I could see on the screen, that's our uniform from the World Championships at the hostage ribbon. We got some interesting words from an athlete or two. I think that the role of Israelis in general and Jews in general is to proudly represent themselves and their people. And the bobsled team is something that I hold very dear to me because we're very visibly and outwardly Israeli. Right? Everywhere we go, we make sure to be decked head to toe in Israeli gear. And given the fact that we're so, we're at the top of the world rankings now, we're in the top 25, we're really in line for an Olympic position, we occupy a very prominent space in our sport. And something that we have really tried to use as a platform to educate people who don't really understand the issues. But at every single track I go to, at every single competition, I make sure to stay an hour afterwards, at least in Israeli gear, meeting everyone I can, talking to everyone about Israel, debating people if need be. At the World Championships, someone came up to me and they said, well, isn't it so horrible that all of the people in Gaza are dying because Israel is bombing them? And it really sparked a conversation where we stood there and we spoke for about 45 minutes about what the morality of war is and how it's cheapening war when you remove the responsibility of those who start a war, when you remove them from the consequences of such. And something that has been really prominent with the team. The team functions as shagririm, as ambassadors of the state, something that I hold very dear to my heart.
All right, well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. AJ Edelman from the Israeli former Olympic team and from Team Israel for the Israel bobsled team. Thank you.
Thank you.